So if you saw my last video about Lightroom, you know I'm a huge fan of point color. It's in the color mixer. It's basically a subsection, if you will, of HSL, but it is basically HSL on steroids. It's an amazing tool for giving you just more control over color than you can possibly imagine. And I find myself using it more and more because it's just so good and it's so easy to use. And because it's so powerful, it's hard not to use, right? It's one of those tools that I think I'm just going to be using all the time. And so I did a video about it recently, which is there. That's the one I referred to already. And, I had a number of comments about, hey, what about masking with this tool? And yes, you can do this in a mask. So not only do you get amazing control over the colors across an entire image, but you can be targeted and pinpoint your color edits to certain things that you're masking. It's incredible, and I love it. So I'm going to walk through how I'm using that in this video. I mean, it's getting so good that it's like unfair. Well, it's not unfair because everybody has the same tool, but it's incredible. It's just so much fun. So I've got an image here. I shot it in the swamps recently. That's the base image. Now, I've already done some things. I did straighten it, took out a spot, and you can see I've got the before right now, but you can see what I did here in basic, which is kind of the same stuff I always do. I'm balancing out the light. I'm just setting the stage for my edit, and I do this prior to going in and doing any masking. Of course, this is basic, just getting started. A little bit of vibrance, a bunch of stuff around the light, and it took me from that photo there to that photo. Massive improvement if you consider how dark it was. Massive improvement, a little bump in color, quite a bit of adjustment in the light, but there's a lot of color in this image, and I want to target certain colors in certain areas, which is why the masking comes into play, and get the image looking the way I want the image to look. So that's what I'm going to do. So I go over to masking, and I'm going to go ahead and click brush. And the first thing I want to do is just brush in these trees. So let me do that, and then we'll jump back into where I'm going to apply these edits. Okay, so something about like that. I've essentially isolated the trees because I'm going to play with that orange color. And if you'll notice here in the mask one, which is what I just created with the brush, there is this point color section. It may be collapsed. In fact, all of these may be collapsed. And what I'm going to do is collapse the ones that I don't need. So I'm just going to go straight into point color. And as you probably know, you just click on the dropper, and then as you hover, it'll allow you, the mask overlay will hide. It'll allow you to find the color you want to play with. I'm going to play with that orange right there. And now it's isolated that. And there's a lot of things you can do to adjust the range. I covered that in the previous video. I'm not going to go into that here. I'm just going to use it the way it's identified it out of the gate, if you will. So what I want to do is go a little bit redder. I want to go a little bit more saturated as well. So I want to play up that fall color, but it's way too dark. And so this is where coming in and getting that really specific kind of dialed in color allows me to just pick that just right there, because if I did not have this tool available on a mask, if I chose that color, it would start also picking up the orange colors here in the water reflection and in the sky, and it would throw that off. So by being able to mask it, I'm isolating it just to the trees. And so what I'm doing here is, of course, just applying to the trees. So that control is what I'm talking about. And I mention that a lot when I talk about masking, but it's incredibly important and super powerful, and it's necessary, to be honest. I'm surprised more people haven't done it. So now that I've done that, I'm pretty happy with that, but I also want to do one other thing. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this mask. So duplicate mask one, and that was a right click to get to that. Actually, I'm just going to delete this swatch because I don't want that to double up. It duplicated the mask, but it duplicated the edit as well. So I deleted the swatch. I'm now going to click that, and I'm going to come in and just choose this kind of brownish color. And all I want to do here is increase that luminance. And you will notice that it's just going to help me increase the entire area, because that color is, there's a lot of that brown in the orange. So if I turn off this piece of the mask, you can see there it was before, and there it is now even brighter. So I like how that's looking, and being able to isolate those quickly and easily is just making all the difference for me. Now, having done that, and I've talked about this in previous videos, is the masking in Lightroom. It's just so good. And so I'm going to use quite a few masks here. I'm going to go now and select the sky, and you'll see it does a really good job of finding the sky and isolating that. And so what I want to do here is come in to tone, and I want to bring the exposure down a little bit. So maybe like about a 0.2. I'm going to increase the contrast pretty significantly, and I'm going to drop the temperature a little bit. So I need to go into color here. So about a -3 or 4, and saturation is going to come up about a 17 or 18. So overall, something about like that. But if you look at the before, I've done this, and the after, it's obviously created more contrast because I amped that up, but I made it a little bit bluer and that sort of thing, a little bit more saturated. But there's another thing I can do, and that is also use point color here. So I'm going to go in, and still in the same mask, I can do this even though I did other edits up here. I can come in and choose point color, and I'm going to come in and take this blue color right there, click that, and all I want to do is shift that luminance slightly left. You don't want to go very far because you'll get this weird kind of super just screwy looking kind of thing. But if you take that down 5 or 6, all I'm doing is adding a little bit more contrast because I've isolated that blue, which is a darker color than the white clouds that have a little bit of warmth to them. And I'm darkening that piece a little bit more thanks to point color. And I'm just doing it in the sky because I think the blue in the reflection is probably dark enough, but I'm just doing it there to add a little bit more drama and impact in the sky. So that's another use of point color, but I'm not done. I'm going to do a little bit with the water now. So this, for me, is going to be a linear gradient, and I'm going to click and drag that. And I like to have a kind of a generous fade. So that area is the transitional zone, kind of the fade where your edit fades into the rest of the photo. And what I want to do here is lift the exposure a little bit, and the temp is going to go slightly left and the tint is going to go slightly right. It's just something I like to do. And then of course saturation is going to come up as well. So about a 17, 18, something about like that. So I'm just improving the overall look of the reflection here. If you look at the before and the after, you can see it's not massive, but it's a nice little change. But there's something else I want to do, and that's again with point color. So here I'm going to click point color, and I'm going to come in and I want to grab this green because I want to play that up a little bit. So I'm going to click there. I've now isolated the green color, and I've just isolated it there in that linear gradient mask, which is in the foreground. And I want to shift the hue a little bit. So I'm going to go a little bit to the right. So a little bit richer green color, a little bit more saturation as well, and a little bit more luminance as well. So making it brighter and more saturated and a little bit more green. And so now if I show you this before and after, you can see it's really popping those lily pads, and that's my foreground element. And so I want to draw attention to it. So I brightened the entire foreground, played a little bit with the color, but mostly I wanted to go in and use point color to isolate that green and really bring it to life, because that's kind of the lead into the photo. I was trying to get those lily pads to kind of frame the view looking off into the rest of this swamp here. So having done all that, now I've got quite a few masks, and if I show you the before and after, there it is before, which was a much improved photo over what I had prior to that. But now with all the masks in place, I've just got a much richer photo, and I'm able to control those colors very specifically with point color on these masks. I just absolutely love that. And I was about done. In fact, I was finished, and I closed the masking tool and I thought I was done. But there's one other color tool that I really, really love. And I also made a video about this a while back if you want to check it out. And that's this calibration section. And all I want to do here, and I'm not going to explain how it works, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to take the blue primary, and I'm going to drag that saturation to mid to high 30s. And I want to take the shadows tint to about a 12, 13, something like that. And so if you look at the before and the after for just this tool, there it is before. The colors, although they're popping quite a bit more from the original, they're a little bit more muted. And then if I let go of that and you see the adjustment with the calibration, that's almost like a color grade at the end, for lack of a better term, where I'm applying this color look across the entire photo. And that's what we used to have to do before you have all this powerful masking with point color inside of each of the different mask tools. And so that gives you an idea of how you can use these color tools, and specifically point color within mask, to have targeted, specific, and detailed control over the colors in different parts of your image to end up creating something that you really like. And this is a photo that I really like. If you look at the before, there it is. It was a beautiful sunrise, honestly, but that's a raw file, a single exposure, pretty flat, lacking the pop. And now I feel like I've really brought it to life thanks to masking and point color and a little help from calibration at the end. That's how I'm using Lightroom and those tools together to make an impact on my image. Hope it helps. Hope it gives you some ideas. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. I'll be back soon with more Lightroom tutorials. Thanks for watching, my friends. I'll catch you next time, and until then, adios.